Hey, that's pretty good slash bad slash holy moly. I can't believe that that game went like that. This team is almost incapable of winning games that aren't insanity. 111 to 107. They beat the Wizards, who were on the second night of a back to back, and the Raptors did so, closing on a 22 to 1 run. The Raptors held the lead at 7-6, and then they held the lead at 107 to 106. There was 100 points in between their leads. They won the fourth quarter by 14 points. It was absolute insanity. Of course, we can kind of obsess over the fact that the Wizards were having their way with the Raptors. We can focus on the bad stuff, and let's quickly get that out there. The Wizards are not a good team. The Wizards are on the second night of a back to back. This is a Wizards team that will be in the running for the first round pick. But a win is a win is a win is a win. I don't think the Spurs are super good this year, and the Raptors came back against them after having just an absolutely dismal, first half, found their way back into it. Huge comeback. This is effectively the same thing. That win against the Wizards, led by Pascal Siakam's brilliance. The win against the Spurs, led by Scotty Barnes' brilliance. The two wing players now through the Raptors are 10 games in. They've each stolen one game apiece. And this one, man, very impressive. You can't start anywhere besides Pascal. I was kind of confused at the Raptors' offensive approach as far as how they were trying to get baskets in the first half. And especially since this is a team, they play Tyus Jones, they play Jordan Poole, and they play Kyle Kuzma. And even if you consider like Denny Avdija or Bilal Coulibaly, none of those guys are fit to guard Pascal Siakam, especially when you consider Tyus and Jordan Poole and the fact that the Raptors can go to these small pick and rolls where you get the switch, you target a post up. That's when the Raptors kind of turn things around, really leaning into Pascal's offense, identifying those mismatches. Obviously, by the end of the game, he's a plus 18. He won, except for that opening stretch, he won every single stretch of basketball he played with bad lineups, with good lineups. It was just get Pascal the ball, let him find his way to a bucket. 39 points, 7 assists, 11 rebounds, 6 turnovers, a couple of them really bad, but obviously to get to 39, 7, and 11, and 3 steals to boot as well, and did so on 62% shooting. You don't turn your nose up at anything. You just have to accept the extremely efficient offense that's being provided by Pascal Siakam. And eventually, the Raptors got to it, and that culminated in that small pick and roll. They did a flip play, little toss to Pascal at the end. He got the pool switch, jump stop in the lane, got him to bite too hard, hit a little shot. Front rim, shooter's bounce, falls in. This team just won a game where they shot 4 of 21 from downtown. The whole time I was thinking, like, the Raptors are kind of finding their way offensively. They're kind of getting into some looks in the second half. Maybe there's something here, but they're not going to win this game unless they can buckle up on the defensive side. And when we're thinking about a team that needs to provide at least a modicum of defense, it should be easiest to perform that against a team like the Wizards. From the Wizards side of things, we have our Washington delegate, Baker. I mean, man, you had it for a long time. You had it, man, but it came around. It just walked me through from the Washington point of view. What was that? What was that like? 22 to one. You guys couldn't throw a single bucket down the stretch. Even that one, that's a free throw.
That was probably the worst stretch of hoops I've ever seen in my basketball watching life. Like I'm still stunned. All I could really do is laugh in the end, but just insane offense that they were running. Just a lot of unnecessary isos. The Raptors pressure when the Raptors upped the ball pressure in the third quarter, it really like overwhelmed them, and it really just discombobulated the flow of the offense. And it was just never the same as it was in the first half. I thought in the third quarter, even when they upped the pressure, I thought they did a good enough job stabilizing a lot of the Raptor runs, but once the fourth quarter started, and they got the lead down to 10 and then to 8, and then I'm sitting there saying like, yeah, this is done. And even in our chat, like even when they went up by 19 at the half, I legit I had a vision of foreshadowing because I've seen this in multiple games this season. Like I will not be shocked if they found a way to bottle this. And sure enough, they did. They found a way.
Your
Um,
pessimism paid off.
it
You're
did. It
you're an
did.
oracle now.
I am.
What did you think of, because it seemed like the Raptors process, both teams went to the same offensive process down the stretch. It's just that Pascal is getting these huge wins by getting the mismatches. And even when the Wizards, they didn't find a mismatch, he just took his primary and got buckets down the stretch. We saw Scotty score the pick and roll down the stretch as well. But the Raptors are finding a mismatch, scoring in the post or in isolation. The Wizards are running the same like wing initiated pick and roll. The Raptors switched that openly, like Pascal was playing deny defense for like 8 straight possessions on Jordan Poole and did it really well. What did you make of the difference? Like same approach, a 22-1 run, literally polar opposite outcomes there.
It was just I thought benching Gafford from the
Nuts.
it was
Nuts.
insane to me, like absolutely insane. Like
I know Kuz scored like a hell of a lot of points, 34, but Gafford has, in the
he
minutes he played, he might have been their best player.
he opened up so much stuff in the pick and roll today, this whole game. Like if he was, screened for Tyus, he's finding open guys. Kuz attacking Jakob every time he comes around the screen. Like he was everywhere on defense today, like blocking shots, challenging stuff at the rim. Like
Yep.
it was insane to me to not like at least give him a look in the fourth quarter. He sat the whole fourth quarter. Like it made no sense to me. I thought Wes was very bad in the fourth quarter today. He had some opportunities to use a challenge and he just didn't use it. Um, and benching Gafford the whole game to run this small lineup, which is like it still doesn't make any sense because even yesterday in Brooklyn, like you're running this small lineup against Nick Claxton who came back and he's like skying every time for offensive rebounds and he's just so much taller than everybody. So I think and also like with the Raptors, like they were able to just like run everything through Pascal, like just attack mismatches, attack anybody that's smaller, even against even he had a few possessions on Bilal, even a few possessions on Denny. In the end, they hunted Jordan Poole, which is expected because he's the worst defender on the floor.
Yep.
But I just thought yeah, they did a good job just getting shots to their best player. And the Wizards, they just stalled. I give credit to Toronto. They upped the pressure. They finally started carrying a lot more than they did in the first half. And it was a tough game. But credit to them. P had a great second half. Incredible third quarter. Just straight bully ball
Yep.
on the nail, and just either drawing fouls or getting 2 points, and the Wizards are just struggling to get baskets on the other end. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much my take on it.
Yeah. So a few things are, through 10 games, a trend has developed. The Raptors, as far as like isolation, pick and roll, handoffs, their best offense so far through the season has been post ups, which is probably what a lot of people would have thought coming into the season, given the players on the roster, and something that they went away from, especially early in the season, even though it's still early, to try and do some more motion based stuff. Teams were kind of cramping the paint and making sure that there's nothing going on in there. But the Raptors are still finding pretty good offense in the post. There's a unique thing where Pascal and Scotty are both quite good in the post. Teams have to load up. They've scored well when teams double. They've scored well when teams leave them in, the just straight up man coverage in the post. And they've scored well against shaded defense. We're looking at two guys who have helped guide these Raptors offense going forward. And there's an interesting dichotomy where we see Pascal has a correlation with Scotty taking more shots at the rim. And when Pascal's off the floor, Scotty takes more threes. And I'm wondering what you thought about because Scotty, who has been the Raptors' best player to start the season, I don't want anybody arguing or being angry about that or anything.
It's slowly
But
starting to flip.
but
Slowly starting to flip now.
but but Scotty had a really tough run trying to carry a bench lineup that was, man, who'd they have out there? Precious, Jalen McDaniels, Chris Boucher,
Just
and maybe Otto. I can't remember who was in that lineup. But what did you think about Scotty's minutes without Pascal today, where it was kind of like, see if you can carry kind of this lump sum of bench guys?
I think they set him up very badly today. Those bench lineups were a big reason of why the Wizards were able to stretch the leads.
Yeah.
Just no like offensive, punch out of any of the guys he's playing with. And, a lot of, even on his drives, they crowded the paint a lot, and they basically said, like, if Jalen McDaniels, you want to take a three, go ahead. We're not going to care. Otto Porter sometimes, we're not gonna care that much. And I thought Precious for 3 quarters played it was very rough. And so honestly, I thought like, him with the bench was very bad. I thought like maybe you could have done a little bit. You could have maybe threw in some Grady minutes, who was really good today. Um, but I think like him with the bench lineup, I don't think he's that good enough to just carry a unit that's that inept yet. But I still saw some good things for him today. Just getting to the mid range instead of just settling for like these threes. And also he had some good post touches, late in the game. So I thought he played an overall good game, but I don't think like him with this bench unit is gonna like lead to much success, because I don't think his talent can overcome like how inept the bench is, because like they were very bad today. I thought Chris Boucher today was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
As silver linings go. But yeah, like that unit in particular, like they struggled mightily today. So
It was really tough.
yeah,
The big thing with that is that the Raptors coming into this game, a lot of Scotty's bump in points, especially, he was, for example, he's scoring like 26, 27% of his overall points in transition, where last year that was 18%. He's coming into this game shooting 35% from three instead of 29%. And what continued through this game is that he's shooting almost 70% on his mid-range pull-ups. So his bump in points has been a result of better jump shooting and more transition. As far as like getting downhill, getting into the paint, the Raptors spacing doesn't help Scotty at all. And he's not gonna like rip guys up at the point of attack from a standstill. It's about like getting in motion, being able to play with advantage, all that kind of stuff. And that's why Scotty, when you look at the lineups, the same as any other player, is a guy who does really well when he plays with other players who can create an advantage. And we're seeing that, man. Obviously, he misses OG a bunch. Obviously, the minutes without Siakam are tough if OG isn't out there as well. And at the end of it all, like, it was a rough Scotty game for quite a while. And still, at the end of the game, you feel really good about Scotty being out there. Like, he finished with nine boards, right? He helps clean up defensive possessions. He gets like he had 5 steals in this game, man. Like,
yeah,
this is his first game without a block. Who cares? 5 steals. He finishes with 19 points on 17, on 17 shots. This is not efficient. This is not his best game, but he's still, even though he's being put in tough positions, able to, my God, get into games where you look at the outcome. He finds a way game after game. And I know, like, I saw comments, people are a little pressed about, like, well, why isn't Scotty doing this? Why isn't Scotty doing that? Scotty has to figure it out when the jumper isn't falling. This
yeah,
game, the jumper wasn't falling. They're playing a Wizards team that was playing awesome, awesome defense, especially with Gafford at the center of it. That relented. Scotty found his way into the paint late, did a good job of that. And honestly, Scotty, understanding he wasn't able to create a bunch of advantages for his teammates, didn't push. The advantage in this game was with Pascal Siakam. So they went there. And man, just really impressed with, it wasn't his best game, but he kind of fell into the background, observed, found his moments, had that huge bucket late, got involved defensively late, and man, pretty happy with Scotty. Pascal was obviously the biggest motivator for this win. If you have 39, 11, and 7, 3 steals himself, obviously that's going to be the case. What did you think of Jakob Poeltl? The guy who is at the center of a lot of the Raptors' offensive discussions, I should say.
Man, I thought, okay, before I get to the bad stuff, I'm gonna try to give him some peace. I thought like there was, even in the Boston game the other day, they were featuring him early, you know, getting him into like pick and rolls. You know,
Oh God, yeah.
yeah, no, like I'm talking about on offense, but like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they're feeding him early. He got a few shots go off, like, you know, bumped to Gafford, you know, got some good shots up in the paint. But man, these last couple of games, man, they've teams have attacked him in pick and roll like constantly, and you saw it today. Whether it was Kyle Kuzma turning the corner and like getting into his chest and finishing, or Daniel Gafford catching the ball down low, giving him a shoulder bump, you know, a little pivot, and then, you know, just finishing over him. And you know, it was rough for most of that game. Like, you know, guys are just like unafraid of his like presence inside, and so, you know, it's tough. You know, they've, especially since, you know, the Wizards aren't Boston, you know, in terms of offense, but
Certainly not.
certainly not. But yeah, it's been a rough couple of games, and you know, he basically sat like the rest of the game, you know, from like third quarter on. So I think maybe he steps it up. I think maybe he should get a little bit like a little bit more like depth in his drop. I think he's getting a little too high, and
Yep.
it's allowing penetration, allowing guys to just turn the corner on him and just get a step and like finish. But yeah, it's been tough for him. They definitely didn't really need him much to complete that comeback, but you definitely want to see some more good things from him, especially like, you know, protecting the paint. Because this is back-to-back games where he's been outplayed by the other team's big. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. But
Yeah.
you know,
We
I
have
think
a
yeah, go ahead, my fault.
we have someone in chat who asks if Jakob has been a positive impact player this season, marginally, but after this game, this will be the first time in Jakob's Raptors, like second Raptors stint, that Jakob will be a negative on the floor. He was
Wow.
a massive, massive positive last year, obviously. Like one of the heaviest swings in the NBA. The Raptors were 14 points per 100 possessions better with Jakob on the floor. That's obviously insane. Their offense was much better. They ran a lot of pick and roll between Fred and Yak. They got a lot of good offense out of that. Just for reference, like Fred and Yak pick and roll was more efficient than Dennis and Anthony Davis. This was something people talked about
Sheesh.
preseason. And the Raptors' defense last season was 10 points better with Jakob on the floor. This season, the defense is marginally better and the offense is a good bit worse. And again, the Raptors find a win late where Jakob isn't on the court. This isn't something to like obsess about and super worry about because a lot of teams do close without their big, and you do need a big man to just munch and crush minutes on the way to the finish. And the Raptors went to Precious. Why? Because Precious could switch. So
Yeah.
they didn't have to worry about sticking guys at the point of attack or skirting around screens. They're like, well, Pascal's being put in the pick and roll. He plays the night defense on Poole, does a really good job of it. Scotty gets switched out on a couple times. Precious gets switched out on. And what happens? They score 1 point in like 8 minutes. That's the game, man. So credit to Darko for going to something that has so far this season been pretty good, closing without Jakob. And obviously, with Jakob being a guy who's under contract, supposedly a big part of the team going forward, you hope that they put him, as you said, maybe a bit lower in these drop. Like he's playing up to touch sometimes. That's especially with guards like Tyus Jones or Jordan Poole, you're just way too high. And we saw it when Jordan Poole in that, it's the famous quote from Darko, 3 words, OG Ananobi, what was Poole, like 1 of 15 from the floor? Well,
Yeah.
OG's not here today.
Yeah.
He's not gonna play ice defense and keep Jordan on one side of the floor. Like Jordan is slinking and sliding everywhere. So is Tyus. So is Kuzma. And so the Raptors, they weren't able to help Jakob out a ton, and he
Mhm.
certainly didn't help out a ton of other people a ton. It
Yeah.
was a tough game for him. There's been a few of those. I do wonder. I know maybe we talk after the Celtics game as well because that the way that the Celtics decided to guard Jakob was a massive, massive problem.
Man, Porzingis under the rim, man. He's
That
saying,
was that was pretty crazy. I remember
yeah,
last season, and I'm sure you remember it too. Just so everybody knows, Baker's a good friend of mine. He watches a lot of Raptors, so we get a bit more insight from a Washington guy than usual. We saw Scotty last season, I'm sure you remember, where Miles Turner was playing like maybe at
Oh
the
my God,
hash
prevent.
marks.
He's playing prevent defense, man.
Exactly. But Porzingis was even lower than that. And
Yeah,
I didn't think you could go lower than that.
yeah. He
Even
got
with
called. I think in the beginning of the game, he got called for defense in 3 seconds. Like,
just sitting there.
yeah, just sitting there. So yeah,
It's tough. As far as like making, because this is what people want to know about, and this is what people argue about, obviously. Like after every loss, if I go to the comments, people say it's Pascal's fault. When they win and Scotty doesn't score as much as people want, everyone's worried
he
about
doesn't get
Scotty's
enough.
development, all that
He
kind of
doesn't get the
stuff.
ball enough.
When you watch a game like this, how do you feel about Scotty's role? Do you think he got the ball enough? Do you think that the Raptors just aren't putting the right guys around him? What is your stance on that?
I thought he got enough touches today. To be honest, I thought especially early, it was he tried to initiate a lot of advantages and they just weren't happening that much. It was like a lot of just coming off the screen. If the defender's dropping, I'm just gonna pull up for a midi or like try to see like if I can fit this pass through or like try to attack the basket. So I thought early he tried to just get what he tried and it wasn't going for him. And the second half, it was just like Pascal saying, like, I'm just gonna attack any matchup that I can score on, and it was working. He scored like I think 12 in the I think he scored 22 in the third quarter,
Yeah.
and then you know the game plan was basically set until then. Like you just feed him, and just like if the defense if the defense shades him, or they bring somebody to help, it's easy kickouts, and everybody's just in rotation. So I thought early he tried to get his shots. I thought he did a pretty good job getting into the mid range, and he hit some pretty big shots late. To
Yeah.
lower that cushion that the Wizards have built up so much. So
A
yeah,
few
I thought
a few
it was good.
possessions stuck out to me was that one of the first was at Scotty early in the game, end of the first, start of the second. We're talking about a guy who they ask him to go um, and carry a bench unit. And one of the ways that Scotty scores is he gets a low post touch, drop step, finish at the bucket. We also see him flow into a mid range pull up. That's pretty nice. We see late going left, taking the bump, getting back to the right hand, finishing at the rim. These are good plays. This is nice, especially since Gafford wasn't on the floor. The Wizards, when Scotty scored in that pick and roll, there's a lot of space. And I can't remember who was in the strong side corner, but Scotty didn't get a dig either, which was really, really important. And then with the post up, it's like empty side post up, go to work against your check. And then falling in the pick and roll is just beating a drop. There's nuggets to mine from those plays, but consistently, and Scotty got chances in this game to try and create from a standstill and as like a classically, star creator. And it was a bit quieter. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, as I've mentioned before a little bit, like the bump in Scotty's scoring has been a lot more hitting on jump shots, which that's something that we expect and hope to see progression in over the course of his career. And then scoring a lot more in transition. As far as like the half court getting paint touches coming into this game, Scotty had 8 half-court layups over
Man,
9 games. Like, the Raptors, they're dealing with a complete lack of spacing, and, I wrote this piece about how it's tough for Pascal to navigate that, but also in that point was, I wrote, "It's tough for Scotty too." Scotty's just shooting 45% from 3, and we'll see what happens when it comes back down.
yeah,
Scotty, he's, I think, maybe, like, 15th or 16th in the NBA in touches. Dennis Schroeder is 11th. He's getting a decent amount of the ball. It's just tough in this game. Like, you have a great defender in Gafford sitting down low. You have sticky little defenders who are kind of bothering his dribble too on help, and he's a guy trying to create. And there wasn't that much transition in this game, as far as like, well, there was a decent amount of transition, I should say. The frequency was high,
yeah,
but it was lower than some other games. And the Raptors, as far as having to take the ball out of their own basket more often until the end, had a lot of half court possessions. Scotty has been the best player on the team. No worries about that. But for a night, and
it
there's been a
was,
few games like this, it's Pascal. That
yeah,
shouldn't worry or stress anybody out. This is
of course.
this is what it's supposed to be when you have a guy who's an all NBA player and you have a guy who's making that step, hopefully to all-star and all NBA. I see the comments about it. I don't want people to worry about this like game to game. You got to take these in these, stretches, see how a guy's playing, how a guy's doing, all that kind of stuff. And Scotty, like I said earlier, I think he found his way to a positive game. At the end of it all, he found his way. I
Yeah,
got to ask you, Malachi Flynn. So I watched this game from my point of view. I'm like, Tyus Jones is playing. He shoots 36% from the field, but I'm like, Tyus is playing a nice game. Pretty good point of attack defense. He's creating shots for others. And from my point of view, I haven't seen much of Tyus this season. I say, this is good. I hope he's not on the floor. Malachi Flynn wins minutes, plus 12, plays 22 minutes, gives you 6 points and assist. From your point of view, what are you thinking when your Wizards are playing against Malachi Flynn?
I thought, I thought, I thought they could, like, even when their offense was like stalling like late in the game. I think they made an effort to like try to attack him, and they just didn't
And
like
it didn't work.
the processing was bad. I
Malik
thought
can't be stopped.
um I thought the plan was fine. I thought that the processing was just absolutely awful. Like, you got Denny Avdia trying to size him up when he's 6'9".
Yeah, man. Denny had like 2 possessions where he went
Yeah,
between his legs like six
like,
times each.
like, you're 6 feet 9 inches tall. Like, why can't you just attack the guy? He's like 8 inches. He's 8 inches shorter than you. Like, just attack his shoulder, because when he did that, he got a foul. So he got fouled, and then I'm saying, like, just do it again, and then, like, he gets like cold feet. Somebody helps, and then it's a turnover. So I thought he played a good game. I thought he pushed a lot of the pace and transition. When they were creating turnovers. I thought he hit like some big shots. When they were cutting the lead down from like 18 to 15 to like 12, and so yeah, I thought he played a very good game. For Malachi Flynn standards, but yeah, I thought he was really good. He was really impactful. He definitely helped them, come back in this game, and yeah, he was, and he played, and Darko put him in late in the game, like he trusted him. He
Yep.
was playing a good game, so you get to play like late in the game. So yeah, he played a good game.
That was the key, was that Malachi comes in, Dennis is in, and Dennis, like, I think Dennis had trouble sticking the point of attack for a certain portion of the game, but late he did a good job. They put Precious in, and we're looking at a team that's switching a lot of stuff, trying to be sticky at the point of attack, trying to move the Wizards farther and farther back in the shot clock, and then going to mismatches on the other end. It was insanely effective. I said this a couple times in the podcast, but 22-1, and that was the key to the Raptors turning this game on its head. I also see a comment that says it's the Wiz. Can we hold off on the Pascal's back vibes? Great teams know how to scheme against him, and we've seen what that looks like. I got to tell you, man, when I looked at the comments on last game's podcast, all the blame was on Pascal for the loss. I look at the comments as you guys roll through. Pascal has received a ton of criticism, and the 6-1 at that point in time Mavericks, they had a really tough time with Pascal.
Yeah,
Pascal, like, the Raptors have a huge comeback. Yes, it's against the Wiz. Pascal goes for 39 points. There has to be some level of like accolade we can
yeah,
draw on
come
this guy,
on,
right?
man. Like,
Like he scores 39 points and we're policing, hey,
yes,
don't say good things. I mean, come on. I see what gets said in this chat. I see what
yeah,
gets said on Twitter. A lot of people are preying on a downfall. If a man goes for 39 points on 24 shots, you got to give flowers, man.
yeah, come on,
Are you
man.
guys fans of the Raptors or not? Like, a guy gives you 39, you win a
Can't have you
game in
you can't
exciting
have
fashion.
you
Come
can't
on
have your
now.
can't have your cake and eat it too, man.
Hey,
Like, come
man,
on.
yeah, they won it both ways. But
Yeah,
Pascal was the biggest motivator for this win. Scotty
yeah.
came on strong at the end. Pirtle had some good moments early on, but as far as closing, Precious held down the front court. The guy I want to talk about, who also held down the front court, Chris Boucher, baby. Let's go. What did you think of his game?
He was basically like their best player coming off the bench today. He hit a big three in the fourth quarter. Was running the floor in transition, um, getting big offensive rebounds even when they were down in that game. Just tapping the ball, just creating havoc. Um, yeah, like he was very impactful, man. I think without him, they don't come back in this game. Um, along with like some others. I know we're going to talk about like Pascal. He's going to get the headline. 39 points, 24. I think he had like a bunch of it in the second half.
Yeah.
But without Chris Boucher like just running the floor, just creating havoc, blocking some shots at the rim. When Jordan Poole or Tyus Jones got dribble penetration, they have some space. Um, yeah, he played a heck of a game. And he was like their guy in the middle, while Washington, is like playing like this janky 5 out. But yeah, he played a very impactful game. It's good for his confidence because he's been kind of like out of the rotation, for a little bit, and it's good for him. He contributed, to a really big win today. So hopefully this stems into like uh, a stretch for him because the Raptors, they definitely need some bench production, and he definitely gave it to them, gave it for them today.
Yeah. So we have a couple comments just saying let's keep it in perspective. Boucher was the real hero. Darko gave him the chain tonight. Boucher was awesome. And then let's see how the Bucks game goes. You guys, Pascal last time he played the Bucks 22, 6 and 7 on 70% shooting. You guys, Pascal scores 39. We have to be able to talk about him doing well. I see the comments. I watched the whole time. You guys, it's pretty negative. You gotta own up to it. You're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
As far as Boucher, the three in the corner, super impressive.
yeah,
The secondary help throughout the course of the second half, really impressive. Like a lot of those missed layups, a lot of the wizard shots that hung on the rim and just fell off. As far as the guy who was, yes, you have your primary defender, but Boucher's timing that up as the help side. He's stepping into the lane, making sure there's another pair of arms and helping close out those possessions. And as far as the length covering space on the floor, changing some of the passing angles that the Wizards have out there. I thought he was awesome. I thought that it was, and like this is Boucher. A lot of people game to game, he gets a lot of slack too. But this is a guy who mostly across like, the past 3, 4 years, he mostly comes off the bench and like wins minutes.
yeah,
Really, he does. Boucher, he makes mental mistakes, surely. He does some things out there where you're like, I wish he wouldn't have done that. He doesn't play perfect basketball, but he has a lot of hustle. He has a lot of physical gifts, and he goes like balls to the wall every possession. And I mean, you see it tonight. Like he's a plus 14 in
yeah,
like 20 minutes. He really helped the Raptors shore up their defense and provide a little bit of pop on offense. As you said, not even necessarily. He only had one offensive rebound tonight, but he kept the ball alive
yeah.
where other guys were able to collect them. Another guy who kept a few more possessions alive, the young man, Mr. Dick Grady. Another guy who won minutes,
He
and
did.
he was responsible for 50% of the Raptors made threes in this game.
Didn't he
I
only make
thought,
two? I thought he
hey,
did.
hey,
Did he
hey,
only make
man,
two?
they only made 4 all night. They only made 4 all night,
That's
but
impressive though. Like you win an NBA game in this day and age, only making 4 3-pointers. Like that's very impressive.
no jumpers,
Yeah,
never.
just
Um,
just just classic, just classic. Just show put your head down. Getting to the basket and just getting to the line. So
that's what it was. It's something that you have to expect most nights that you're not going to shoot 20 or like 15% from 3. It might have been even worse than that. You're going to expect more than 4 made three-pointers, yes,
mhm,
but on the night where you can't, being able to kind of grind yourself into the paint, make it work, very
yeah,
impressive. And Grady, this was a collection of a lot of things he did poorly and a collection of a lot of the little things he does really well. Yes, he hit 2 threes. The one coming off of he drives baseline, pops the pass out, relocates to the corner,
yeah,
ends up hitting a 3. Hell yeah, great. He has some nice passes. He's these good progressive reads. But then other times you see he's turning down a shot and he's forcing a pass that ends up being a turnover. Like he's picking up his dribble, putting himself in a difficult position. But outside of that, he got picked on a little bit defensively, but for the most part, does a really good job providing, he has the correct spacing on defense. He's maintaining the shell. He's making good reads as the weak side zone. He's helping when he has to be in the gaps for drivers. Pretty good Grady game. I know everybody's waiting for a bunch of threes to start falling, But this game, I felt pretty good about it. Was pretty
Yeah,
impressed with the young man.
yeah. I thought he played well. I think there was a I think his best play today. It wasn't the scoring, but he kept the possession alive off of Pascal missed free throw, and like I saw it on the Wizards broadcast, like, and I saw how quickly he sprinted off the 3 point line and just jumped for the rebound, and then I think Precious grabbed the rebound, and he was able to get 2 points. So I thought that possession was huge, and that's what you kind of drafted him for him to just provide space and for him to just hit like provide a necessity for this team that they desperately need.
But that's the thing too. He hasn't hit at a high rate,
Yeah,
but teams follow him around. He
mhm,
drags guys out of the gaps. They respect his shooting, even at this point in his career. So even if he's not hitting the shot every time, the spacing he helps provide is palpable.
yeah, it is. Speaking of while we're on the topic of rookies and guys with sticky fingers at the point of attack, I want your assessment on a guy who played on the losing team today, but I thought played back to back his best games of the season, and that's Bilal Koulibaly. Um, Give me your assessment of how he played today.
This is a guy who, once he actually has his frame filled out, he's going to terrorize a lot of players for a lot of years. Trey and I, when we talked about Bilal, we thought he might be a guy that the Raptors could get. And we thought when we talked about him, he was ranked mostly end of the first round, start of the second. This is Wemby's teammate. And he does like a fantastic job of working his way up and eventually getting selected seventh.
Yeah,
Seventh, this guy rose up to. And it's because when you watch him, his physical tools are immense. He's bouncy, he has insane stride length. He can move his feet way better than guys who are that long. And people still think he might be growing. And so he has a bunch of things physically going his way. And then you see him keep his hands active. You see him get his hand on a lot of balls. You see him play the matchup the way that he's supposed to. Like if he's playing ice, he does a really good job of forcing them down the side, sliding with them, keeping that right hand activated and up to block that pass to the middle. Like it's just little things like that. When a guy with his physical gifts pairs that with the right approach and technique, you get really impressive defensive games. And he's 10 games into his career. Most of the offense that he was able to provide was just like runouts. And that's okay. This is a guy who you wonder what it looks like defensively. He just slowly gobbles up and eats points on offense. Somebody in the chat, Carlo JS, says Bilal is OG Junior. Comps are tough, but as far as like what he's succeeding at early on, and as far as the usage, it's there's a lot of carryover there too.
there is.
It's tough to end up being OG. And actually, Nesta has a really good point. Bilal is a fluid version of OG's ceiling. Bilal is way more fluid. Like
Yeah, he's
OG, when OG came into the league, his first dunk, he backed a guy down, put them on their butt, and then dunked it. That was his
yeah,
first NBA basket. That's not Bilal. But Bilal is like this fluid water on defense, whereas OG is like this staccato stopper at the point of
yeah.
attack.
He's an oak tree. It's like oak tree versus like like an ocean breeze, like basically. So
Like bamboo. Isn't bamboo tough to break, but you could bend it, it's like,
yeah,
woo.
yeah. But man, he's like I watched the game yesterday against Brooklyn. Man, he's just so fun to watch, and I think his offense is slowly starting to pop a little bit. He's starting to make the threes in the corner and around the floor. He's attacking closeouts really well. I thought there were some moments in this game where like he attacked the closeout. He got into the lane and had some like he missed them, but he had some impressive like rim attempts today that made me say like, well, okay, like he's
Yeah.
getting a little more confidence, finding his offensive game, and just defensively, he's just an absolute terror. Like, Scotty trying to like take him off the bounce, and he's just like gripping him like easily, like back to back plays, and he's just running out and dunking, and like he's just
At this time last year, he was on the B team.
yeah,
He
like
wasn't
it's
even up with him at 92, you know?
yeah, He's playing on the JV team, and while one of these teams like in the EuroLeague playoffs, like it's insane. He's just scratching. I think he's just scratching the surface of like what he can be as an NBA player. Because when I first watched them, in the preseason, I'm thinking, yeah, this guy is like Mikal Bridges, like frame wise, they're not the biggest guys, but like they're mobile enough. They're really good at using their length and their wingspan, their dexterity to just like bother opposing wings. And right now he's looking way better than what I expected him to be. So he's been really fun. I think him and Gafford. I thought him and Gafford terrorized so many possessions
Yep,
today,
totally.
and just created a bunch of havoc. Got the Raptors out of their comfort zone. And he was like one of the very small bright spots in this game. Even though like they had that amazing first half, I thought his game today was very was like a good silver lining, even though the result wasn't as what they wanted.
That's what it's supposed to be for the Wizards. Like, you
Yeah,
guys very clearly are building you they're evidenced by this game. Maybe they don't wanna win that much, but this is a team that's building for the future. Bilal is a guy who fits at what any team in the NBA, if they had a guy like Bilal on their bench to come off and provide, like, a little bit of shooting and a whole lot of sticky defense and a whole lot of length, he would find his way and teams would be overjoyed to have him. Washington, in a lot of eyes, reached at number 7, but I think they're going to be super, super happy with what that is. We have a couple interesting questions. One is what happened to the new motion offense. Another, we're talking about abandoning motion offense, and then anyone else see us going into an ISO heavy offense by the midpoint of the season, given the lack of talent on the team. So it's the Raptors basically the biggest change they've made is they're entering the ball into the post in early offense more often than they did the first 5 games of the season. And like I said, heading into this game, Dennis Schroeder across the whole NBA was 11th in touches. Scotty Barnes, I think, was 16th or 17th. And Jakob Pertl, not so bad either. Obviously, Pascal gets a healthy amount of touches, even though it's like maybe 20 less per game than he was getting last season. And the Raptors have had the worst half court offense in the NBA to this point. They aren't able to create advantages. Dennis Schroeder is the guy touching the ball the most. He has the most dribbles per touch. He has the most time on ball. He has the most touches. And they're running a lot of high pick and roll with he and Pirtle, he and Precious, he and maybe it's Pascal or Scotty. And the Raptors just haven't been able to score out of the high pick and roll because there's not enough spacing. And Dennis, a lot of defenders go under, where a lot of defenders, they're
yeah,
not playing super sticky. They're not worried about the drive because he doesn't have that pull up three. It
mhm,
changes the dimensions of the court. So what the Raptors have done in response, they've initiated through the post more often and done so with both Pascal and Scotty, obviously leaning farther to Pascal over the past, especially 3 games.
yeah,
The Raptors have to be able to create advantages. They weren't creating any out of the motion continuous screening offense. They were just keeping the ball on the perimeter. Heading into this game, they were second in the NBA in passes, a healthy amount of assists as well, but you have to be able to, in a half court, pressure the rim, put
yeah,
guys in the paint with the ball. And what happens frequently with a lot of like Dennis on ball is not a lot of paint touches. And if he was getting paint touches, he gets some layups, yes, every now and again, but they're heavily contested. We saw tonight he went 1 for 12 from the floor, not his best game. And as far as what they're trying to do is they need to enter the ball, create defensive rotation. And the most reliable way that they get defensive rotation isn't a Schroeder pick and roll, isn't a Pascal or Scotty pick and roll. It's a
give him some
Pascal or
43.
Scotty
Just give him
post
some
up
43.
or Scotty, right? And
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
Scotty gets to play with better spacing over time as well. But enter to one of those guys, they can draw a double. The Raptors can make a read. And once the defense shifts to double, they start attacking gaps. And a lot of their possessions right now, because of the lack of shooting, the gaps are filled. Teams are playing close in, they're playing pack line defense. And it's been tough. This is why I talked about like this offense. Yes, it hurts Pascal, obviously, but it also hurts Scotty. Um, point 0.5, I've said this over the course of the season. It's kind of a buzzword. Point 0.5 offense isn't actually offense. The Raptors, for example, they run a ton of different, like, they run Chicago out of the corner offense a bunch. They run a lot of Princeton offense with their horn sets. They run a lot of, like, weave action at the top where they're lifting and switching the corner and above the break while there's an on-ball action. They run pin-ins on the weak side corner. These are actual basketball actions, and there are guys on ball. Point 0.5 offense just means make quick decisions, and if you get the advantage, you can turn it into a bigger one by making a quick decision. If you don't shift the defense, point 0.5 is just moving the ball from point A to point B on the perimeter. And the Raptors have to get more dangerous. The quickest way to get dangerous that they've figured out currently is entering the ball through the post. That has shifted more possessions into Pascal's hands, obviously. Over time, we'll see if they figure out more creative ways. I asked Yak about this, maybe like a week and a half ago, how they try and make those split actions work better with him at the top, how they make the pick and roll more dangerous. And he said it's a lot about timing, angles of screens, but also Jakob probably isn't going to say we're not dangerous at the point of attack with the guy with the ball in his hands. We don't have enough shooting. Like, a player probably won't say that. So he's talking about the nuances. There's room to improve, certainly, but the quickest way to improve offensive possessions that the Raptors have found is to enter the ball through the post. And it's different. Obviously, everybody's noticing that. But for the people who wanted the answer to that question, that's what it is. Like, through the first, I think, 6 or 7 games, compared to last year, Pascal was setting like 3 times as many off-ball screens. He was using like 20 less touches a game, and his role change was dramatic. Scotty's has been dramatic as well, and these guys have to navigate a lack of spacing when what they really need, both Pascal and Scotty, is space so they can dominate their guy. Obviously, Scotty has a way better chance being so much younger. He's 22, Pascal's 30 right away anyway. He has a better chance to develop more of those on-ball, high pick and roll, spread pick and roll skills to make the Raptors offense more dangerous in that, traditional or modern way, but he doesn't currently have it. And the Raptors have to figure out a way to score game in and game out. And the idea of what they wanted to do is good, but the personnel and skill sets also have to be accounted for. So that's as thorough an answer I can give, just as far as like what has changed so far. I've been really impressed with, since the change, both Pascal and Scotty, because they both have to navigate really tight paint areas. And these are guys who, credit to Scotty for through the first, 10 games is probably shooting, 34% from 3 right now. Good for you, man. And shooting 70% on your pull-up twos, incredible. No qualms about Scotty whatsoever. But as far as like, man, what this team is trying to do game to game, they've been entering the ball more through the post because they score better out of the post. It's statistically their best play. So that's the shift. That's the change. You've watched a lot of Raptors. Baker, what have you thought about that change? And thank you for watching so much Raptors, so you get to poke fun at us, all the time. He called us during the Celtics game. He FaceTimed us. We all got together to watch the game, and he FaceTimed us. He's making fun of us, man. Oh boy. But what have you thought about the shift?
Sorry about the call. I have to give credit. I have to give credit though. Before I answer your question, I have to give credit to our friend Espondier Berahidi. I didn't think if I didn't want to call anybody else because I thought they would just like hang up. S is a real guy for putting up with
you went to number 1 in the nice rankings.
Yeah, I shout out to S for dealing with my obnoxiousness, because I was very obnoxious that day. But to answer your question, I think this is the way to go, most likely, because I think it's probably the most sustainable, and I think it just makes more sense to just feed the ball to your best players and just play off of them. Early, Dennis Schroeder pick and rolls is a slap in the face to Pascal Siakam. I'm sorry. Just putting him in the corner, treating him like he's just he's a spacer, and not limiting his usage is very I don't want to say malpractice, but it's close to it. And I think today what you saw, and especially against the Mavericks, when you would just give him the ball, when you just give him opportunities to just like, attack a matchup and, just operate out of the post, a lot of good things are going to happen. Either he's going to get he's going to draw a foul, or somebody's going to get a wide open shot because he's dominating his matchup and they're sending help. Same with Scotty. The more you just give the more you give your best players the basketball and you just let them operate, let them use their strengths. Um, just let them, create whatever offense that they can muster up, because this half court offense isn't getting it done. Um, any way that you could pivot, because it looked pretty decent today. It wasn't perfect, but it looked a lot
Second
better than,
half
yeah,
anyway.
second half. Like, yeah, second half it looked a lot better. It wasn't perfect, but just using like it it opens up so much more when you just operate the basketball through your two best players and your two most gifted, like physically gifted players on this team. Just the way like Pascal was able to just knife through the help and just like contests and just draw fouls and finish at the rim. And Scotty's just a physical, like just a physically gifted like young man, and
Yep.
you could just throw his shoulder into a defender and just finish through contact and with no without breaking a sweat. So I
I'll
think
say
it I think it just makes more sense to just run the offense more through them, because it works, and it definitely helps other guys get open shots because of it.
so. We have a really great comment here from Caleb. It says, "Feels like Scotty and Pascal are still taking turns being amazing on offense instead of working together. Really curious if they figure it out before more shooting arrives." So here's like wings don't usually have tremendous synergy. You watch a lot of Boston.
Yeah,
Jalen and Jason are both great, but they don't run a lot of two-man actions with
yeah,
synergy
exactly.
between the two. Kawhi and PG at their height were maybe like the 2 out of the 5 best wing players in the NBA. They didn't even run a bunch of actions, those 2 together. So there's a natural, even in modern basketball, wings don't run, there's not a ton of actions there. And so I don't know what that looks like. You just have to hope that your wings can organize offense more like guards. And neither Pascal or Scotty really organize like guards. And so here's a big point. If people want Pascal traded to play another style of basketball, that's okay. Like, I have no qualms about people wanting a different team or saying, like, no, I'd like this team without Pascal. That's fine. But we don't have to come on here and pretend like he's bad or, dismantling this Raptors team when he gets the ball. That's not the case. It's okay to want a different type of team. And it's also okay to think if we could get Pascal and he goes out and we get like a guard who plays well with Scotty. Scotty's 22. He's the future. That's okay.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean that Pascal is bad or ruining anything. Like Pascal's been with the team for however long. Scotty's been with the team for however long. They're both trying to play their best game in and game out. So there's a natural, it's tough to make wing actions. Like Pascal and OG were 2 wings on a 59 win Raptors team. They both played a lot of games that year. They both played extremely well. Pascal made all NBA. OG should have made all defense. They didn't run a ton of actions together. They both ran a lot of actions with Kyle Lowry, though. So
yeah,
there's like something there that there's not that much wing interplay in general,
yeah,
outside of it's mostly dependent on the defense in the NBA. So if one wing happens to have a small on them or something, and you want, let's say, Kawhi to have this possession, maybe you send Paul to go screen so you get that switch. But as far as like wing actions where it's like Paul George and Kawhi figuring something out, or Jalen and Jason figuring something out, or Brandon and Zion Williamson figuring something out, it doesn't happen that much. I don't think Scotty and Pascal are that much worse than the other wings as far as like interplay, but also spacing. The big differentiator in any of those pairings is the shooting. The Pelicans are currently, I know Pelicans fans are currently, they're very ham-fisted about Zion and Brandon and their fit. And this is something that the Raptors, they tried to make better with Precious at the 5 before Jakob came. And when Precious shot 44% from downtown for like 25 straight games, it worked quite well. But the Raptors, it just might not be enough shooting. And that's why I don't mind if people say, I want to cheer for a different version of the Raptors that doesn't include Pascal. Okay. You want to shift the skill sets on the roster and change the talent equation. Okay, this is what basketball is about from a fan perspective. It doesn't mean that Pascal is ruining somebody's, progression. It doesn't mean that Pascal is a bad player now. It certainly doesn't mean that people are selfish. I want to urge this. A player can leave your team without you hating that player or like booing him out of town. The Raptors are currently suffering from a top down skill set problem, not a Pascal Siakam skill set problem. And I
Yeah.
think too often it gets framed in that way. Scotty's the future. No problem with trying to build a team that prioritizes him going forward. But Pascal's still here. You
Yeah.
know, that's the Raptors, they have stuff they have to try and navigate. They've been trying to navigate it for years. They probably, the team next year, I'm assuming looks quite a bit different, but there's still basketball to be played
Yeah.
while
Still
we're
one
here.
season left.
And here's the thing, guys, I didn't see a lick of negativity after that Spurs game. Scotty had the big game. We sing his praises, rightfully so. Why is everyone so angry at the end of this game? It's not like the Spurs are world beaters either. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What, like Pascal, 39, 7, and 11? Let him have flowers for a night,
Yeah.
at least, right?
It was amazing. It was amazing
It,
today.
it was a super great game. And Scotty still managed to have a good game. Scotty's the future. There's nothing wrong with that. You can build how you want to build. And I see people say it. It's okay if you want Pascal to go. You want to build a different type of team. You were a huge fan of Bradley Beal, and you said Brad needs to go on because we need to build differently. That didn't mean that Bradley Beal was bad.
Yeah.
That didn't mean that he was selfish. It didn't mean anything like that. The dramatic daytime television, time of our lives, whatever, days of our lives,
Days of
like
our lives.
dramatization of the like warring players against each other. That's not actually how it is. Pascal and Scotty like each other. They're both frustrated probably by the fact that there's not much spacing on the Raptors, but I doubt they look at each other like villain versus villain after every game, like everyone seems to within the fan base. You guys just got to enjoy some basketball, man. Huge win. Huge.
You came back from 23 in a game that you had no business winning, and you ended up winning because this guy had an elite second half, and he should be getting his praise and he should be getting his flowers, but
And like that being said, I think the best path forward for this team is one that pairs Scotty with an elite guard because Scotty is in year 3 playing tremendous basketball. And guess what? Probably the best way to get an elite guard prospect or more pieces that could get you an elite guard in a package is probably Pascal or OG. Who fits better with OG with Scotty going forward? Probably OG, right? OG fits on any daggum team in the world. So that's the team building aspect. It doesn't mean players are mean or bad or selfish or anything like that. Hey man, you got some hoopers on the team. Maybe the skill sets need to be reshuffled, but a big win, a fun win. The second half, I was like, holy moly, during the first half. But the Raptors, man, they grind out a game. They figure out a win. They're 5-5 after, I was asking people after it was the Dallas game, and people were saying like 46 to 50 wins as far as, and maybe they get there, maybe they don't, but they're 5-5 now. They're at 0 for the rest of the year. We'll see how it goes. And they've had a pretty tough schedule to this point.
Yeah,
I'm glad that this game didn't become the loss against the Portland Trailblazers, which was really tough, man.
That was very tough. I mean, Portland's beaten some teams, so it doesn't look totally bad. But yeah, 5-5. They've played some pretty tough teams. It's not terrible. Could it be a little bit better, with some of the losses that they've had? Sure, but this is the NBA.
But they also have a 22 and 23 point comeback.
Yeah.
40% of their wins are like these huge comebacks.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, against San Antonio and against Washington, they were down like pretty much like the entire game, and they just they cranked it up in the second half. But yeah, this isn't a terrible. This is why I kind of I didn't want to make any assumptions on this team because you never know what Raptors team you're gonna get every night. And it's very Jekyll and Hyde. It's you get this team who beats the brakes off Milwaukee, and then then the next night, they play Portland, and they just can't score, and it's just like it's up and down, it's up and down, it's up and down. It's still like inconsistent, but you know, it's good to see that Scotty Barnes has played like amazing.
Yeah.
He's made
That's
that
the
huge.
biggest
Yeah,
that's the biggest, like, vote for positivity of anything happening.
yeah. When you have a young player that's making the leap to like being a star, it's like it's one of the best things like ever. I've definitely seen it before with like, guys like Brad Beal, John Wall, Tatum, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown. Like, when you see like your young guys like just evolve, ascend to a level that you see like a lot of the star players play at. Like it's very like it's like a breath of fresh air. Like wow, like this is what it looks like, to see. So it's definitely been like a positive light, for this season. But would I be shocked if this team makes the playoffs? I mean, the East is pretty tough. The East has been pretty tough this season. So many teams have made jumps, but could they string together some wins? Probably, but what team are we getting? That's my biggest question. Is like, what team are you gonna get on a daily basis? So
It doesn't help that they've had these insane swings from three-point land. Like,
yeah,
they've had of their 10 games, I think they've had, like, 2 or 3 median games that are between, like, 28% from 3 and, like, 38%.
yeah,
Everything else has been, like, 53% or, like, 12%, and
yeah,
obviously, that much variance creates an insane outcome. As far as, like, the playoffs, I would be pretty surprised if the Raptors don't make the play-in. Like, if
oh,
they fall
yeah,
if they're 11th or lower, I'm like, so they're playing playoff type basketball at the
yeah,
very least, I think. Like, Orlando is better this year. Brooklyn will be compelling. I think this Raptors team is better than Brooklyn. The Knicks are gonna try and find their way. Cleveland at 4 and 5, but as far as, like, Detroit, Washington, Charlotte, Chicago, I think that the Raptors are in a better position. What determines, like, high seed play-in or low seed play-in or maybe even above that is what they do at the trade deadline, and we're way too far away from that
yeah.
to, I mean, talk about it
Yeah.
as far as what the Raptors are gonna do. We have a comment from Ali, who is in after every single game. "Gotta go. Love you, Samson. Much love, brother. Thanks for popping in here after every game." Thank you to everybody for always being here after every game. I it's late night talking hoops. Just glad to have people come in and bounce off of. I guess for myself and Baker, some questions we can answer a few before we get out of here. This might be the longest post game we've done so far. Baker and
Nice.
I have the gift for gab, it would seem, but yeah, I think you and I we made a bet. We haven't decided. We can still decide what the terms of the bet are. I'm assuming you want them to be on the lighter side of things, but from
Yeah.
the outside looking in, the Boston episode, you said that maybe you thought that the Wizards would be better or end up with more wins than the Raptors this year. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
When you
Not
when
gonna happen.
when you come to Toronto, you gotta I don't know, you gotta buy me a what's something we both enjoy that we can drink together. I don't think either of us drinks alcohol.
I'll actually get you. Maybe I can get it. Maybe I can add a hat to your collection.
Bro, no, that's way too much.
Oh, no, 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 no. I can definitely do that. I'll definitely do that.
Give me
100%.
a kufi or something
A
like
Kofi. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Definitely. 100%. 100%. I got you. 100%.
that.
100%.
So here's a good question from a listener from
Mm.
Nesta. Mo Pete's shot or tonight? Biggest surprise win.
Oh, damn. That's tough. Damn. They really had to wind the clock back. Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm
Honestly, tonight. Well, I'd rather take tonight, to be
it
honest.
it
That Mo,
obviously
Pe- Mo Peach shot was absolutely devastating. Like it was absolutely devastating.
I'm telling on myself a little bit here, but I don't remember how much the Raptors came back from or if it was mostly just like that
I think it
shot
was
because 23 points is pretty nuts.
yeah, but like yeah, like I mean leads disappear so quickly in this league now. Like you could be up by 25, and then in a blink of an eye, it could be down to like 8. So this loss didn't really like bother me as much, but the Mo P shot, man, I would rather take today's events over like tenfold over that.
Yeah, and we still, I mean, like Pascal, it wasn't like a buzzer beating game winner, but pulled up, got to the spot, hit a game
Yeah,
winning shot. I know like it wasn't all mesh or anything like that. Front
yeah,
rim rolled in, but there's more dramatics obviously to as far
mhm,
as like what Mo Pete provided, but from 23 points down, it's pretty interesting. Here's a good question. Is this Pascal's team for the time being? No. Pascal Pascal has less touches. Pascal gets the ball less than Scotty. And like, yes, there's games like tonight where Pascal is the obvious advantage. Scotty still took 17 shots tonight. He still finished with, and keep in mind, guys, Scotty's averaging 20 points coming into this game. On a night where Pascal scores 39, Scotty scores 19, has 4 assists, 9 boards, and 5 steals. The line of demarcation doesn't really need to be drawn.
yeah,
Like Scotty, like we talked about earlier, Scotty found a way to contribute, and he's still like 17 shots, got to the line a couple times.
hmm
Would most people like to see, would most people watching rather cheer for 39 points from Scotty? I mean,
yeah,
obviously, like the
yeah,
fan base is very attached correctly to the young star, but
mhm,
Scotty still had 19, 9, 4, and 5. What are we doing here, guys? Like,
yeah.
yeah, this
That's
is
good.
this is Scotty's team.
That's a good
Everybody
team.
talked about it. Like I've talked to Darko about Scotty way more than I've talked to Darko about Pascal. Everyone has. Everyone talks about Scotty. Scotty is the guy who, big NBA guys, every conversation last week wasn't about like every conversation last week about the Raptors was Scotty's jump, and deservedly so. People aren't going to be talking as fervently as, "Oh, Pascal found it." Like, it's less compelling, it's less important. It's important that Pascal is good, but nothing on this Raptors team is as important as Scotty's jump, and Scotty's making it. And tonight, 17 shots, I'm I'm not sad about it. Okay,
Yeah,
like Pascal dominated his touches. Scotty had a huge close to the game. He was good on defense down the stretch. He was a defensive playmaker. He made his own shots down the stretch. He also gave the ball to Pascal, who ended up making shots as well. It went well down the stretch, guys. And I think this is Scotty's team. This is evidenced by, the touches as well. You know, Baker's got to get some water in. I got to get some water in too. Got to. I've been talking for an hour and 7 minutes.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. So here's another question from Caleb. We're gonna do a one trade. Okay, one trade question.
Ooh, nice.
Is there any tradable upgrades at guard Baker thinks are gettable for the Wiz? Are you trying to upgrade a guard?
I don't think it's necessary.
You guys had Delon is injured, but you guys
Delon's
had
hurt. Yeah,
Jordan, Tyus, Delon. Before that happened, you guys had like a glut of good
yeah. It was a
guards.
Glenn. Yeah. I thought I honestly think like they might. I think they should explore maybe. I don't think they will explore it, but I think other teams will. I think other teams are gonna probably want to see if they could get Tyus at the deadline, because especially a lot of teams that are contending for the playoffs. He's a tremendous floor general. He can space the floor. That floater is like you didn't see it drop tonight, but that floater is like legit automatic. And he's a solid point of attack defender. So I think like a lot of playoff teams will try to like nab him, at the deadline, see if they can lobby a first, to Michael Winger, who's trying to stockpile bad draft picks.
Yep.
Um, in terms of other guards,
While you think, let me answer. So H. Kashaf says, Samson, I'm trolling. I'm glad to see Pascal, OG, and Scotty coexist. My bad. Obviously, you see what I see in these comments the whole time. It's tough to tell tone. And I do see a lot of, I guess explicit stuff. My bad. But my answer remains the same, even though you're just trying to get a little bit of a rise out of me. Mission accomplished. We're all having fun here talking hoops at the end. Baker knows he's had a lot of history in trolling me as well. But yeah, I would think that the Wizards aren't buyers in the guard market, but probably sellers.
sellers, yeah.
Yeah. I can specifically think of Raptors fans who have been for months like, can we get one of those Wizards guards? And
Mhm.
Tyus was obviously at the top of that list. Tyus is going to help somebody out a lot. I think the Wizards are in a good spot to make a deadline trade where they sell high on a guard.
Yeah,
And
or they probably sell high on Kyle Kuzma maybe. I think maybe that's in the cards. Because they did extend him, but probably more to use him as like a trade chip more than like a core piece. But yeah,
well, that's what happened with Pascal, right? Like they're trying to trade the Raptors are trying to trade Pascal this summer, but he's not extended. So when teams come around asking, they don't want a 1-year rental, and getting Kuzma to sign that extension means that more years of team control.
Exactly. So yeah, I think either him. I like the position that they're in, to this get recoup draft picks and honestly, just build for the future. I know Jordan Poole's had a really rough season, but I think he'll get it together. I think once he just plays more in control and more, just I think I just play with more confidence and is it just more exuberance because I think he's just playing like chicken head cutoff and he's just doing a lot of sloppy stuff. So and honestly, Bilal's playing amazing. Bilal's been amazing. Tyus has been great. Kuz has been good. Daniel Gafford, he has to play more. Just play the guy more. He's like your most important player. Just play him 30 minutes. Like they sat him against Brooklyn. They sat him in this game. It made no sense. But yeah, overall, I like the direction that they're going in. Just maybe they try to just recoup some more young talent at the deadline and just try to get more assets.
They'll have a chance at some big swings in the draft. And for where they were to quickly 180 pivot, I think it's been impressive. Something that shocked me a little bit is that Poole hasn't scored over 15 points in 5 straight games. Like I know he's had a tough time as far as the season so far, but that's pretty surprising. He's a man. He's a like a volume scorer to see him in this stretch just not get above 15. Pretty shocking. I think Baker's head going in and out. Something's happening with his camera right now. Oh, you have no audio right now, Baker. Just as like a mention. But my brother, it's all it's all screwed up. Your audio isn't working, unfortunately. Maybe it is for the viewers, but not for me. While you sort this out, we have a question or just a mention from Soldier T1. Had to see this garbage in person. I want to hear y'all bend this one into something positive. OMG. At one point I screamed at Yak and Boucher when the crowd was quiet. Damn, this team is bad. We have been trying to bend it into something positive. That's I can't hear you, Baker. That's correct. We have been trying to bend it into something positive. But as far as what the Raptors are trying to do game to game, that's something that the Raptors, they have to have better performances than tonight. Thank you to Baker for coming on. He just popped off. Something happened with his audio. But my goodness. One last question before we get out of here. Am I fine with Otto starting again on Wednesday? Yeah. I think Otto, he played a decent enough game. It obviously wasn't his best, and maybe he's better used the same way he was with the Warriors, kind of helping dominate bench wings and playing up against bench bigs and doing a really good job of hanging in and providing shooting no matter who he's playing against. Tonight was fine. It obviously wasn't his best game. If the Raptors aren't playing well, he's not going to be the guy who turns it around. He's there to help, accentuate what the Raptors are doing well. And tonight he was in a position where he didn't really get to do that. If OG is still out for the game against the Bucks, then yeah, Otto probably starts again, especially considering who their lineup is. You want Otto who could play off of a guard, who could help on digs, and who could really help out on the glass. And that's probably how this thing shakes out. Yeah, was happy with that. Guys, ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping on and listening to the podcast. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this thing. Thank you, everybody. The chat, as always, insightful, engaging, and makes this way better to do after each game. Whole bunch of people hopped in on this one. Makes me happy and feel blessed that so many people come in and listen to me chop it up about basketball. Uh, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. The people who are listening for a long one on their walks in the morning or just hanging out late at night, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.